Ryan Evergreen gripped the plain manila envelope tightly, its weight bearing down on him like a burden too heavy to bear. As his world threatened to crumble around him, the contents within felt like an insurmountable weight, dragging him closer to the brink of despair with each step he took. At the age of 27, Ryan Evergreen's life seemed to have unfolded along a near-perfect trajectory. His journey was one that many would envy, perhaps even covet. With a flourishing career as a financial analyst for a conglomerate of corporate investors, Ryan had not only amassed sufficient wealth to pay off his home, but also indulge in various luxuries. His success had garnered him admiration and respect as he navigated through a network of influential connections with ease. Moreover, over the past 3 years, Ryan had been charming Catherine Anderson, the beloved only child of Penelope and Joshua Anderson. 14 months ago, Ryan and Kathy, as she was affectionately known, had fallen deeply in love, and now their wedding was merely 6 weeks away. To add to his good fortune, Ryan's future father-in-law was none other than the CEO of Sterling Industries. Merely having Joshua mention your name carried weight equivalent to a job offer in certain influential circles. Stepping out of his Lexus LC, Ryan made his way up the illuminated pathway toward the grand entrance of Anderson Manor. Tension gripped his body, and the shadows seemed to conceal lurking nightmares, poised to strike from the darkness at any moment. 3 weeks feel like an eternity, Ryan muttered bitterly to himself, his voice tinged with frustration. He paused, gazing up at the heavens beyond the stars, silently questioning, God, what have I done to deserve this? Which of my past indiscretions has angered you enough to bring about this ultimate retribution? As he pressed the doorbell, its faint chime echoed, prompting thoughts akin to how ancient warriors might have felt preparing for a battle with bleak prospects, where victory seemed elusive for either side. Waiting for the door to yield, Ryan's mouth went dry and breath eluded him. The moment of reckoning had arrived, turning Ryan's fears into tangible reality. Memories of that fateful day churned in his mind, unsettling his stomach as he recounted the events. On that pivotal Monday morning, a crucial client had urgently summoned Ryan for a meeting in a city 2 hours away. Providing detailed instructions and the name of the hotel, Ryan swiftly rearranged his schedule and gathered necessary information. Opting for a quicker and less risky approach than air travel, he decided to drive, despite the pressure and the toll it would take on his day. The meeting, set in a partially secluded alcove off the hotel's main dining room, proceeded smoothly. After absorbing Ryan's presentation, the client hurried off to catch a flight. Determined to beat the afternoon rush hour, Ryan calculated that with haste, he could return in time, shaving an extra hour off his workday. As he tidied up his materials, Ryan's attention was drawn to movement in the garden area, visible from his vantage point. A reflexive glance revealed Penelope, his future mother-in-law, walking towards him, hand tightly clasped with a man initially unrecognized by Ryan. With a jolt, he realized it was Kyle Martinez, his future father-in-law's primary competitor, sending shockwaves through his world. By a twist of fate, Penelope and her male companion found themselves seated just a few tables away from Ryan moments later. Feeling trapped, Ryan hastily surveyed the room, realizing there was no discreet exit route. Despite a sickening feeling gnawing at him, Ryan packed his equipment, hoping for a chance to slip away unnoticed. Frustration and agitation consumed Ryan as he remained ensnared by his circumstances. Unable to escape, he reluctantly observed Penelope and her companion, witnessing their intimate gestures and whispered exchanges. An adrenaline surge coursed through Ryan as he noticed the lunch crowd thinning out. When the server approached to take their orders, Ryan strained to overhear their conversation. Penelope's words sent a chill down his spine as she hinted at clandestine rendezvous, prompting nervous laughter. As Penelope excused herself to freshen up, Ryan seized the opportunity, discreetly maneuvering past their table while Kyle's attention was diverted. Hastening to his car, Ryan tossed his files into the trunk and locked the doors, feeling hopeless as he stared blankly ahead. His heart pounded relentlessly, drowning out all other sounds. Overwhelmed with fear, Ryan couldn't help but wonder, what am I supposed to do now? On the journey home, one thought echoed in his mind. I am in serious trouble. Kathy inundated Ryan with a slew of fresh ideas gleaned from the recent bridal show, but despite being right beside her, he seemed utterly distracted. Kathy's attempts to involve him in last-minute changes proved futile, intensifying her frustration. Over the past few days, she'd grown increasingly worried about the persistent funk enveloping Ryan. "Ryan, please, honey, pay attention. This is crucial," Kathy implored, her voice tinged with exasperation. Yet, as Ryan continued to drift in thought, Kathy's patience waned. "For heaven's sake, Ryan, where is your head? You've been miles away since Ella, Layla, and I returned from the bridal show at Hilton Head." Her once vibrant tone now verged on a plaintive whimper. "Every time I ask, you insist nothing's wrong, but darling, you're scaring me." Caught in Kathy's concerned gaze, Ryan swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, Honorable, believe me, you've done nothing wrong. It's just something I learned over lunch with a client could have serious consequences. The problem is, right now, we can't afford that." As his fiancée showered later that morning, Ryan grappled with his predicament. "I need to resolve this mess. I need evidence, something to jolt Penelope, maybe even dissuade her. That'd be the simplest way to end this nightmare." After Kathy departed for shopping, Ryan resolved to take action. He scored listings for private detectives and promptly arranged an appointment, determined to tackle the issue head-on. In just 48 hours, it would mark precisely 3 weeks since Ryan's happiness had been abruptly shattered by life's relentless onslaught of challenges. He felt inundated by the merciless, wrecking ball of circumstances, poised to demolish his once ideal existence. Before him lay a stack of evidence, a stark reminder of the betrayal unraveling in his life. With rapt attention, Ryan absorbed the private investigator's explanation. The CD contains comprehensive video and audio evidence of Penelope's affair, the investigator began. The first envelope, labeled Photos, contains visual proof of their interactions in various settings. From casual conversations to intimate moments, they're captured in compromising positions. In the second envelope, you'll find images documenting their most intimate encounters. And finally, the third envelope holds a printed transcript of recorded conversations, leaving no doubt about the nature of their relationship. As Ryan contemplated the damning evidence before him, he likened it to dynamite, deceptively small yet potentially explosive. But in this case, it felt more akin to a nuclear warhead, capable of obliterating any lingering doubts about Penelope's infidelity and her choice of partner. With a heavy heart, he reached for the audio transcript, knowing that its contents would irrevocably alter his reality. As Ryan delved into the report, he was appalled by the consistent disrespect Penelope displayed towards her husband in her conversations with her lover. He was taken aback not only by their flippant remarks about Joshua's performance in and out of the bedroom, but also by Penelope's boastful claims of manipulating her spouse. Penelope seemed to revel in her ability to control Joshua, a stark contrast to Ryan's observations of their seemingly respectful and balanced relationship. The revelation of her deceit left him astounded. Perusing the transcript, Ryan noted with dismay that the private investigator had documented their intimate encounters at least 4 times over the past fortnight. "Damn," he muttered, shaking his head. For their age, both he and Kyle are more active than a pair of rabbits. A highlighted excerpt from their conversation caught Ryan's attention. "Penelope, when are you going to file for divorce, baby?" "I can't wait until you're all mine," Kyle had asked eagerly. Reading Penelope's response, Ryan could almost hear her distinctive New England accent. "Kyle, I told you. We have to wait until after Kathy's wedding. I don't want her to get hurt any more than necessary. Besides, so far you're getting all the things my husband hasn't gotten in a very long time, and you can be sure it will continue to be so." "Oh, Penelope, I love you." "I love you too." Ryan's heart raced as he grappled with the gravity of his situation. He was only just beginning to comprehend the profound impact Penelope's actions would have on his life as well. The puzzle baffled him. How could Penelope even entertain the thought of leaving Joshua for someone like Kyle Martinez? He pondered. With a heavy sigh, Ryan slumped in defeat, grappling with a moral dilemma. "When it comes to Joshua, I have no choice. He's been like a father to me. He deserves to know, he muttered to himself. But I can't bring myself to look at the visual evidence. I couldn't bear to face Penelope after seeing it. As he nervously fiddled with the clasp on the package, his stomach churned with anxiety. I can only hope that somehow, against all odds, Penelope and Joshua can reconcile this mess, he thought fervently. Thanking the private investigator, Ryan rose to depart. Walking to his car, he couldn't help but acknowledge the grim reality. I'm knee-deep in trouble, he murmured solemnly. Later, while enjoying Kathy's company, Ryan felt an overwhelming urge to express his profound love for her. He orchestrated a special evening at their favorite restaurant, complete with wine, delectable food, and soulful melodies. Kathy reciprocated by lavishing him with affection, admiring his physique throughout the night. As dawn approached, a contented smile graced Ryan's lips as Kathy teased, "Keep this up, and I might have to cancel my spa plans with the girls this weekend. We've already been out together twice in less than a month." Or, her tone turned sultry, "Do you want to save it all up for when I return on Sunday?" "No, honey, go ahead with your plans," Ryan replied, masking his relief. He welcomed the prospect of Kathy's absence, knowing it would afford him the opportunity to unburden himself. Tired of carrying the weight alone, he resolved that regardless of the consequences, Joshua would have to face the truth after this weekend. With a heavy heart, Ryan braced himself for the difficult conversation ahead. The next afternoon, Ryan summoned the courage to make the call. "It's good to hear from you, Ryan. I've been meaning to reach out." Joshua's voice came through the phone, strong yet tinged with strain. Nervously, Ryan blurted out, "Hey Joshua, I really need to talk to you. Can we possibly meet up this weekend?" He winced inwardly, realizing his delivery lacked finesse. So much for staying relaxed, he thought ruefully. I have some matters to discuss with you too," Joshua responded. "How about Saturday night for dinner? Penelope will be visiting her family and friends at her sister's. Isn't this also when Kathy's off to the spa?" "Exactly, Joshua," Ryan eagerly confirmed. "Then it's just us guys," Joshua remarked. "How about 6 o'clock? Does that suit you, buddy?" "Perfect," Ryan agreed. "I'll see you then." "Great, I'll be looking forward to it," Joshua affirmed before they hung up. As Ryan pondered the upcoming meeting, he couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. "Let's get this over with quickly," he prayed silently. It's always someone like Joshua who ends up bearing the brunt. Although he found it odd, Ryan couldn't shake the sense that Joshua sounded relieved about their one-on-one meeting. Could Joshua already know something, he wondered. But for now, Ryan had more pressing matters to attend to, foremost among them being how Kathy would cope with the impending revelation. As he stood outside the door, waiting anxiously, weeks of pent-up nerves threatened to engulf Ryan. He muttered to himself, "This is going to be even more agonizing than I anticipated." His reverie was abruptly shattered by the sound of a deadbolt turning as Joshua opened the door. "Hello, Ryan. Perfect timing. Why don't you make yourself comfortable in the den while I grab us some beers?" Joshua greeted warmly. Ryan felt his mouth go dry as he noticed Joshua's gaze flicker towards the envelope in his hand. Reacting quickly, Ryan responded, "Thanks, I could use one," though he secretly craved something stronger than just a beer. Surveying the den, Ryan could discern that Joshua used the room as a home office. Moments later, Joshua returned with their drinks. After exchanging pleasantries, Joshua settled behind his desk, his troubled demeanor not escaping Ryan's notice. He probably already knows, Ryan speculated. As Joshua slipped on his glasses and glanced at the envelope now resting on the desk, he spoke with a measured tone. "It seems you're already aware," he said, his voice tinged with tension. "How did you come upon this? I stumbled upon it quite by accident." Before Ryan could respond, Joshua's tone shifted to one of frustration. "The fact that you're aware should offer some relief, but it doesn't," he admitted. "With important events looming in the coming weeks, it was imperative to inform you. There were no other options, given the looming threat of public exposure." "Honestly, Ryan, I'm astonished this hasn't hit the gossip columns yet. I regret that both of us have to navigate the fallout of this sordid affair," Joshua confessed, rising to walk over to a large picture window. Gazing out over the expansive pool and patio below, Joshua continued, "Ryan, grappling with this situation has been incredibly challenging for me. The struggle to find the right words and decide who needs to hear them has left me feeling utterly frustrated, like I could explode." As he spoke, Joshua's frustration manifested in a forceful blow to the window frame, causing Ryan to startle. "Sorry," Joshua snapped, his agitation palpable. "But it's excruciating to watch my family unravel right before my eyes, especially when I feel powerless to stop it. It's been a damned if I do, damned if I don't scenario from the start. What could I possibly say to Kathy to ease her pain? And what about you? With your impending marriage and everything, I already feel like a failure," Joshua lamented, his voice heavy with strain. "Add to that the stress at work, and now this turmoil at home. I've been on edge lately." Ryan nodded empathetically, though he couldn't shake the feeling of intruding on Joshua's anguish. "But I understand Joshua's plight all too well," he reflected. "I'm not even married yet, and my future family is already in crisis. And here I am, holding evidence that could shatter my future mother-in-law's world. Yet Joshua seems more concerned about my feelings than his own. He probably knew about this all along. When I first discovered their affair, Joshua, I was in disbelief. It twisted my insides into knots, and part of me wished I hadn't found out," Ryan confessed. "I've been agonizing over how to tell you. Knowing how much you care for Penelope and how close you two are, I knew you wouldn't believe me without proof. I reluctantly hired a PI to gather evidence," Ryan continued. "He obtained audio and video recordings, though I've deliberately avoided watching the visuals. I've only skimmed through parts of the transcript, and they're damning enough." Joshua returned to his chair, his mind still consumed with thoughts. Absently, he traced a finger around the base of his desk lamp. Suddenly, his gaze flickered between the envelope and Ryan's face, pausing to study each in turn. "Ryan, there's likely more dirt in that package than anyone should have to endure," Joshua remarked with a heavy sigh, "or wished to see in a lifetime." Gathering his thoughts, Joshua proceeded, "She didn't realize I overheard her on the phone one afternoon in the den. The conversation left little doubt in my mind about what was happening. I had to do some serious soul-searching in the days that followed. The rest," Joshua gestured towards the envelope in front of Ryan, "is history. Ryan, a friend once told me, if there's any chance for reconciliation, don't delve into the visual evidence. Back then, I didn't grasp the significance, but now I think I do. I don't want to look because, regardless, I could never face Penelope again. And I love my daughter too much, not to mention my respect for you," Joshua explained. Ryan nodded in understanding, but with a puzzled expression, he responded, "Don't worry about me, Joshua. How you handle Penelope is your call. You do what's necessary. I've been worried about Penelope's reaction when she learns what I know, but I've been holding off until I find out your plans regarding Kathy," Joshua admitted. Perplexed, Ryan replied, "It's more about Kathy's wishes than mine. I love her, and I'll support whatever she decides." "I'm taken aback by your attitude, though I can't argue with it. After all, she's my daughter, my little girl, no matter what," Joshua remarked with a hint of sorrow. "Sorry, Joshua, but I'm unaware of any wrongdoing on Kathy's part," Ryan said as he picked up his package, giving it a shake. "I only know about Penelope and Kyle Martinez." Both men exchanged puzzled glances, but it was Joshua who grasped the truth first. Recoiling as if from a venomous snake, he stammered, "No, not Penelope. I'm referring to Kathy and her lover, William Lewis. What are you saying about Kyle Martinez and my wife?" Confused, Ryan retorted, "What do you mean, Joshua? It's Penelope who's involved, not Kathy." The anguish etched on Joshua's face forced Ryan to confront the unthinkable. As his grip weakened, the package slipped from his hand, landing with a heavy thud on the edge of Joshua's desk. With a heavy heart, Joshua reached into his desk drawer and retrieved a package identical to Ryan's, complete with the same name stamp. Speaking in a somber tone, he said, "Ryan, like you, I've only skimmed certain parts of the transcript. She's my daughter, and I couldn't bring myself to delve further. TMI, as you kids say." Ryan felt a pain more profound than any physical injury he had ever endured. "Kathy, my Kathy, but we're supposed to be getting married," he uttered in disbelief, rising from his seat and stumbling backward, shaking his head in denial. Tears streamed down Ryan's face as he nearly tripped twice, blindly making his way to the downstairs bathroom. Though he reached it in time, his stomach offered no relief afterward. Despite feeling lightheaded, Ryan managed to stand after the room stopped spinning. He splashed cold water on his face and rinsed out his mouth before reluctantly returning to Joshua's office. Joshua remained seated, his appearance aged by the weight of the revelation. "How long has this been happening?" Ryan demanded, taking a seat across from Joshua. But Joshua seemed lost in his own thoughts and pain, unable to respond immediately. "Damn it, Joshua, how long has Penelope been cheating on me?" "I'd overheard the phone conversation 3 months ago," Joshua finally confessed, his voice heavy with sorrow. Suppressing his own despair, Joshua met Ryan's gaze and asked, "How long has Kathy been unfaithful?" Ryan shrugged, his heart heavy with betrayal. "I saw them together about 3 weeks ago, but they seemed familiar with each other. Your guess is as good as mine." Pushing the package across the desk, Joshua said, "Son, I don't care what you do with it. It's yours now. I'm just sorry this happened to both of us." Taking the envelope, Ryan felt its weight as if it bore the burdens of the world. "Joshua, there are a few things in the transcript that I think you need to see. I made sure they were highlighted." As Joshua remained silent, Ryan prepared to leave. Just before he reached the door, Joshua's voice broke the silence. "Sorry, Ryan, but there are some unpleasant surprises in your package too." "Goodbye, Joshua," Ryan replied, his voice heavy with emotion. "Goodbye, Ryan. I'll let you see yourself out," Joshua whispered. Driving away from the Anderson manor, Ryan grappled with the painful reality. "I was right. I'm in deep trouble. Why, Kathy? Why?" Then a surge of anger swept over him as he realized, I bet Kathy's with her lover right now. Gripping the steering wheel tightly and fixating on the road ahead, Ryan's thoughts raced faster than his car as it sped through town towards home. His trance-like state was abruptly shattered by the blaring of a car horn, jolting him back to reality. He had run a red light, narrowly avoiding a collision with another vehicle. Pulling over to the side of the road, Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he berated himself under his breath. "Idiot, get your act together or you'll end up dead." He took a moment to collect himself, gradually calming his racing pulse. Still several miles from home, Ryan recalled a parking lot nearby, adjacent to a dance club where Kathy had occasionally taken him. Moments later, he parked in an isolated corner of the lot, seeking solace. Despite his anguish, Ryan found himself drawn to the transcript. Although sipping from a bottle of water helped quench his thirst, it did little to alleviate the bitter taste left by the contents of the document. Tears streamed down his face as he absorbed the stark reality depicted on the pages. The vivid descriptions of the moments Kathy shared with her lover felt like daggers piercing his heart. Echoes of Kathy's passionate words reverberated in his mind as he read. Each utterance intensified his pain, adding fuel to the fire of his grief. Lost in his sorrow, Ryan failed to notice the passage of time until the parking lot filled with people congregating at the club's entrance. The thumping music brought back memories of happier times with Kathy. Realizing he needed to return home to confront the situation, Ryan snapped out of his reverie and hurriedly flipped through the remaining pages. Suddenly, his attention was captured by a highlighted section of conversation. "Kathy, after this weekend, I'll feel neglected. The only other time I'll have with you before your wedding is when you go to the spa." The words leaped off the page. "Don't worry, William. This won't be the end for us. After my honeymoon, we'll find plenty of opportunities to be together. You're irresistible, and I'm not letting you go." Kathy's response hit Ryan like a blow to the gut. "I trust you, Kathy. I can't give you up either. You're the most attractive and adventurous woman I've ever known." William's words echoed in Ryan's mind, confirming his worst fears. Tears blurred Ryan's vision as they cascaded down his cheeks, his breaths ragged and tortured. His grip on reality slipped as he stared blankly at the cars surrounding him, the transcript slipping from his grasp. With each tear, Ryan's world crumbled, his life with Kathy disintegrating like a fragile sandcastle eroded by relentless waves. Why, Kathy, why? Ryan's anguished plea echoed in the empty confines of his car as he rocked back and forth, his head colliding with the headrest. Time seemed to stand still as Ryan's gaze fixed on a movement near the club. Anguish morphed into seething rage as he recognized two familiar figures approaching from the club. Ella and Layla, Kathy's closest friends. His gut twisted with fury. Ryan watched them, wondering if Kathy was still inside the club. The girls, oblivious to Ryan's turmoil, leaned against Ella's car, their laughter drifting through the night air. With determined strides, Ryan marched towards them, their shocked expressions meeting his fiery gaze. "You're supposed to be with Mr. Anderson," Layla slurred, confusion evident in her voice. Ignoring Layla's words, Ryan turned to Ella, his resentment palpable. "You seem to be missing someone. Must have been a dull spa night to rush back here just to dance," he spat, his tone laced with bitterness. Layla's eyes widened as she realized Ryan's knowledge, her drunken stupor evaporating in fear. With clenched fists and curled lips, Ryan seethed. "Knows? Why would I know anything, Layla? Perhaps about my dear Kathy and William Lewis." Ella intervened, commanding Layla to silence before addressing Ryan with steely resolve. "I made it clear to Kathy that I won't lie for her. She's not here, as you can see. Draw your own conclusions, but don't ask me to lie," she declared, ushering Layla into the car as Ryan stepped back. As Ella joined Layla in the car, Ryan's world crumbled further, his heart heavy with betrayal and resentment. Still simmering with anger, Ryan turned to leave when Ella unexpectedly rolled down her window and spoke. "Ryan, I'm sorry, and Layla is too. But Kathy didn't seek this out, it just unfolded. She never intended for any of this to happen, but it spiraled out of control. I know it's hard to understand, but she truly loves you." After a moment of silence, Ryan's tensed shoulders sagged as he looked back. His initial fury had ebbed, replaced by weariness as he replied, "I appreciate your honesty, but it doesn't change anything." As Ella revved her engine, Ryan glimpsed Layla dialing her cell phone before they sped off. He could guess who she was calling. Feeling much older than his 27 years, Ryan trudged slowly back to his car. Starting the engine, he merged into traffic and headed home. Arriving at his house, Ella's words echoed in his mind. "Kathy didn't seek this out. It just happened, but got out of control." Was that supposed to make me feel better? Ryan wondered aloud. Whether it was intentional or not, she allowed this William guy into her life, again and again. His anger flaring anew, Ryan remembered the transcript and fumed, and to top it off, Kathy told him they'll continue after she's married. Turning off the ignition, Ryan stormed into the house, his anger fueling his actions. He swiftly secured all the entrances, doubling the locks and shutting off the garage door opener. "Kathy won't set foot in this house without facing me first," he declared vehemently. After a quick check of his phones, Ryan felt a strange relief at the absence of messages. One thing's certain now, Kathy can do as she pleases, whenever she pleases. Because as of this moment, she no longer has a fiancé named Ryan, he muttered through tears, his voice thick with emotion. Climbing into bed, Ryan lay there, consumed by anguish. "Why, Kathy? Why?" He whispered into the darkness, his emotions swirling in a tumultuous storm of rage, pain, fear, and hopelessness. Checking his cell phone once more, Ryan found no messages. Frustration surged within him as he snapped it shut, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of his emotions. Kathy raced down the street in a state of panic, her mind consumed by worry. As she approached Ryan's house, her foot pressed too hard on the brake, causing her car to skid sideways before coming to a stop. Her usually immaculate makeup was smeared from tears, mirroring her red, swollen eyes. But in that moment, Kathy's appearance was the least of her concerns. Her sole focus was reaching Ryan. Frantically, she attempted to unlock the door, her trembling hands struggling with the key. "Please let him be here," she prayed desperately, her voice choked with emotion. With a heavy heart, Kathy turned to ring the doorbell, only to notice her name written in bold red letters on an envelope pinned to the doorframe. Despite her rising panic, she hesitantly reached for it, her hand shaking with fear and anticipation. Taking a deep breath, she opened the envelope and began to read. Kathy, don't try to use your key. The locks have already been changed. Don't ring the doorbell. I've already left. I'll be at your parents' house this afternoon if you want to talk. Ryan. After rereading it several times, she found herself fixated on the door of what was supposed to be her future home. Unfortunately, she harbored strong suspicions that it might never become a reality for her. Peering through the open curtains, Kathy checked the windows to ensure Ryan wasn't there. The flood of warmth from fond memories washed over her as she gazed inside, causing her to collapse to her knees, overcome with sobs. With shaky steps, Kathy retreated to her car, continually glancing back at the door, silently willing Ryan to appear and mend their broken bond. Racked with uncontrollable grief, she slumped over the steering wheel, questioning in anguish, "What have I done? I've lost my heart and soul." Stunned, she remained seated for a prolonged moment, fixated on Ryan's home, before eventually igniting the engine and driving away, the weight of her decision heavy upon her. As Kathy read Ryan's note, across town, Ryan sat in a restaurant, his face heavy with sorrow. Despite his efforts, he couldn't taste the food, mechanically picking at it. The emotional storm of the past few days had left Ryan drained, lost in contemplation as he stared out the window on what should have been a cheerful spring day, now feeling bleak and cold. Kathy's betrayal had shattered their relationship, but the final blow was her intention to continue her affair even after their honeymoon. Ryan knew what he had to do, but it didn't ease his pain. For the first time, he understood those who wished for death to end their suffering. Life's lessons taught Ryan that time could heal, albeit slowly. All he could do now was wait, hoping that when his new life emerged, the pain of the old one would vanish. Glancing at the clock, he muttered dispassionately, 1:15, just 5 minutes later than the last time I checked. Upon arriving at the Anderson Manor, Ryan encountered his first surprise when the door swung open before he could even ring the bell. Ella. Ryan's voice trailed off in astonishment as he faced his second surprise. The young woman before him offered a slight nod, avoiding his gaze as she explained, with everything in turmoil and Kathy's parents in an uproar, she needs all the support she can get. That's why I'm here. Kathy's waiting for you in the garden. You two won't be disturbed there. As Ryan made his way towards the back door, he couldn't ignore the echoes of his future ex-father-in-law's enraged voice reverberating through the hallways. Joshua certainly has a lot of energy, Ryan mused wearily, realizing he lacked the stamina to match such fervor. In the garden, Ryan found Kathy standing on a grassy knoll overlooking the lake, tears staining her cheeks. A surge of empathy briefly tempted him to offer comfort, but then the memory of Kathy's choices halted him. Facing the consequences isn't easy, he thought bitterly. Taking in Kathy's disheveled appearance, Ryan couldn't muster any solace despite her obvious distress. Hurting her doesn't ease my pain, he acknowledged, though a part of him wished it did. Stopping a few feet away, Ryan spoke with a hardness in his voice, "Kathy, I'm here, but I can't promise for how long. So if you have something to say, make it quick." Kathy visibly tensed at his tone, unable to turn around due to a mixture of fear and shame. "Ryan, I'm so sorry. Her words faltered, and she collapsed into sobs, her face buried in her hands. Witnessing her in this state was like subjecting him to an emotional roller coaster. Despite Ryan's enduring love for her, Kathy's betrayal had shattered the foundation of their relationship. With a strained voice laced with frustration, he implored, "Could you please look at me?" She shook her head, her response laden with remorse. "I can't. I'm certain that what I did surpassed any expectations we ever had of each other. Just the knowledge that my foolish actions have torn apart what we shared makes it unbearable for me." Kathy sobbed. "It might be my own selfishness, but my love for you is too immense. I would do anything to make this right, but through our connection, I've come to understand you too well." The pain in your voice reveals that even your generous heart has been shattered. Gradually composing herself, she continued, "Ryan, I didn't intend to betray you, and I won't offer any excuses now. It all began innocently enough with Ella, Layla, and me frequenting various dance clubs over the past year. About 6 months ago, Layla met a band member at a country and western nightclub where she enjoyed the music. Although his band wasn't a headline act, they were local favorites. When I first met William, their lead singer and bass guitarist, I made it clear that I was committed, and initially I acted accordingly. However, over the months, our visits to the club continued at Layla's insistence to see her friend and enjoy the music. That turned out to be a grave mistake. I developed a close friendship with William, perhaps too close, as our banter and flirtation gradually evolved into something more intimate. One night, about 3 months ago, after the club closed, Layla left with her friend, and Ella went off with the other band members, leaving William and me alone. Before I knew it, we were kissing. That's the extent of what happened that night, but on the journey home, I found myself in a whirlwind of confusion, shame, and oddly, a shameful excitement. Both girls urged me to distance myself from William, and deep down, I knew they were right. Yet, the allure of the forbidden was enough to keep me entangled in a dangerous game. I was foolishly convinced I could handle it. How could I have been so blindly naive? About 2 months ago, I crossed a boundary of no return, succumbing to intimacy with William. We've met 5 times since then, including the weekend I was away, but never at our usual spots, the places you and I frequent. Before you ask, it wasn't about him being superior to you or more capable of fulfilling me, which he wasn't, by the way. It was akin to a high school crush, and I foolishly allowed infatuation to morph into insatiable lust. Please spare me the details. Even the thought sickens me now. Ryan, I want you to understand that I'll live with regret for every moment of this for the rest of my life. It has not only cost me dearly, but has wounded what I hold most dear, you. Her voice carried an unusual finality, resonating with a deep, mournful tone, akin to the distant cry of a solitary seagull. Her delivery seemed almost mechanical, as if she were reciting from a script. Yet, from what Ryan could recall of the private investigator's report, Kathy's confession rang true. Suddenly, it dawned on him. Her methodical demeanor wasn't an attempt to diminish the gravity of the situation, but rather a strategy to navigate through it without succumbing to a breakdown. Ryan realized every word she just uttered is tearing her apart inside. He observed Kathy trembling, her arms wrapped tightly around herself in a desperate attempt to hold herself together. With that realization, Ryan felt a surge of compassion, though he swiftly suppressed it, responding, "Kathy, I believe you're aware that the wedding and engagement are off, at least for the time being. We need space, and please, no communication of any kind until I can process this. Rushing me will only make things worse. Right now, you wouldn't like the outcome." As Ryan finished speaking, Kathy began to sob uncontrollably, her body convulsing with each spasm. He waited for her to compose herself before posing one last question. "Kathy, why?" Struggling to contain her tears, she replied with a trembling voice, "Ryan, that's the one thing I can't explain. All I know is that I went out with friends and lost control. The guilt became unbearable. Ella and Layla thought I spent the weekend with William, but I went to the spa on Friday night to end things with him. I told him to leave me alone before he even stepped out of his car. He caused a scene, hurling insults and accusing me of leading him on. I spent the entire weekend alone, reflecting on us and our future. If you need proof, you can call the spa. They had to involve the police to get him to leave. On my way home this morning, I checked my phone and saw messages from Ella and Layla. I knew then that my world had crumbled. I almost crashed when I heard Ella say, "Oh, Kathy, Ryan knows everything." Believe it or not, Ryan, I love you deeply and always will. But by betraying your trust, I've tarnished that love. Now I'm left to endure the agony of my actions. You'll never fully understand, but please know that I'm truly sorry for what I've done. It was exhilarating in the moment, but losing you, the man I truly love, has made me realize it wasn't worth it. Ryan couldn't shake her words from the transcript out of his mind, and now, unable to contain his bitterness, he sneered sarcastically, "Oh, I'm thrilled by your profound remorse. So sorry that you're already planning a reunion with good old William after the honeymoon, and not just once, but enough times to overwhelm him." Responding to a surge of grief-stricken shame, Kathy let out a hysterical shriek, Oh God, no. I'm so sorry. Yes, I said that, but it was just in the heat of the moment. I knew it was wrong the moment it escaped my lips because I didn't mean a word of it. I knew I wanted. Ryan cut her off abruptly. Enough, Kathy, unwilling to entertain any further explanations as he stepped forward. There's no need to prolong this any further. Just return my ring, and I'll leave, he said firmly, his voice devoid of emotion. In utter despair, Kathy finally understood that it was truly over. She held out her arm, still turned away, and with trembling fingers, handed him her engagement ring. After taking it, Ryan continued, Kathy, you have a few more of my belongings that I'd like back. In a small, fearful voice, she murmured, I'll ask Ella to bring over everything I have. And if it's okay, I need to retrieve my things from your place. You can go through them first, if you want. Ryan replied softly, That's fine, Kathy. Just leave a message on my phone, and I'll arrange for someone to be there when you're ready. She nodded, tears quietly streaming down her face. In the ensuing silence, the space between them felt insurmountable. Finally, Ryan broke the tension, saying, Goodbye, Kathy. As Ryan turned away, heading towards the house, a strangled sob reached his ears, followed by a faint, Goodbye, Ryan. Opening the door, Ryan saw Ella, her eyes betraying the last traces of hope. He leaned in as she kissed him on the cheek, her whispered apology barely audible. Offering a sympathetic shrug, Ryan made his way to the front door, where he heard Ella's voice trailing off, Oh, Kathy. From within, Kathy's strained voice, almost hoarse with pain, cried out, Oh God, Ella, I've lost him. I've lost my love. I've lost Ryan. As Ryan stepped out and closed the door behind him, he caught Joshua Anderson's frustrated voice saying, Penelope, please, give it a break, at least for a few days. Then we'll consider finding a good marriage counselor or something. Descending the steps, Ryan shook his head, musing, That sounds like the beginning of a possible reconciliation. With over 20 years together, I guess it's not surprising. If only Kathy and I had that kind of history, but now who cares? Glancing back at the Anderson manor, he muttered to himself, I knew it from the start. I'm neck-deep in trouble. Weeks passed, and Ryan found himself grappling with the persistent ache of his emotions for Kathy resurfacing time and again. He couldn't escape the reminders of her, reminiscent of the old Bee Gees song, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? To her credit, Kathy had respected his request for space, refraining from any contact. Yet, despite his efforts, Ryan couldn't shake off the sting of her betrayal. After weeks of internal struggle, Ryan reached a painful realization. To truly move forward, he needed a fresh start, devoid of Kathy's lingering presence. Fortunately, his business structure offered the flexibility for such a relocation without disrupting his clientele. A few days after making this difficult decision, Ryan finished packing for his move to the coast. Wanting closure, he attempted to call Kathy to bid her farewell, but she didn't pick up. Left with no other option, Ryan sent her an email, informing her of his departure and indefinite absence. However, Kathy never responded to either his call or his email. Ryan's choice to relocate turned out to be a wise one, leading him on a path of recovery and renewal. In the subsequent months, he found companionship with Brenda Moore, a delightful young woman whose charm, intelligence, and physical fitness captivated him. As their relationship deepened, Ryan confided in Brenda about the emotional baggage he still carried. Understanding his struggles, Brenda resolved to support him with patience and care, knowing that earning his love meant helping him overcome his limitations. This gentle approach proved to be exactly what Ryan needed, guiding him towards rediscovering trust and the ability to love once more. Celebrating the second anniversary of their first date, Ryan and Brenda found themselves immersed in a profoundly happy and loving relationship. Their love and dedication were palpable to all who knew them. While Brenda had met Ryan's parents, he had yet to meet her mother, Pamela Moore, despite their numerous phone conversations. With Pamela flying in to visit her daughter, Ryan's long-awaited introduction was imminent. Standing by Ryan's side, Brenda scanned the crowd pouring through the security gates, eagerly searching for her mother. Suddenly, she erupted with excitement, jumping and waving her arms, exclaiming, "Mom, over here." Ryan watched as a dark-haired woman with sunglasses perched atop her head reciprocated the gesture and made her way toward them. Despite wearing a light floral dress, she enveloped Brenda in a warm hug upon reaching them. Taking a moment to admire her daughter, Tegan finally spoke, "Baby, you look good. I'm glad to see you've been taking care of yourself." Brenda seized the opportunity to introduce Ryan, saying, "Mom, this is Ryan, the man I love." Extending his hand tentatively, Ryan was caught off guard when Tegan enveloped him in a bear hug. With a slight squeak, he managed, "Nice to meet you, ma'am." As Tegan stepped back, her gaze intensified, causing Ryan discomfort until she spoke, "Ryan, all I ask is that you treat my daughter well, and that both of you prioritize each other's happiness." Drawing Brenda close, Ryan responded firmly, "I will do that, ma'am. I promise." Tegan's intense expression softened into a wide smile as she replied, "I've been informed that despite your youth, you are an honorable young man with strong convictions and the courage to act on them. I was also told that once I met you, all my concerns for my daughter would be put to rest." Her daughter inquired, "Mom, what do you mean? I've spoken highly of Ryan many times, but I don't remember ever saying anything like that." "It wasn't you, Brenda. It was me," a strong male voice interjected from behind Tegan. A stranger approached, saying, "And I can vouch for what she said." Tegan turned slightly to see the man and told her daughter, "Sweetheart, I know this is unexpected, but as of last night, I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Joshua Anderson." Ryan stood in shock, his mouth agape, speechless save for a slight gasp. Stunned, Brenda watched as Ryan and Joshua embraced warmly. Tegan smiled and explained, "You see, dear daughter, the man you love already knows Joshua. It turns out they share a long and intriguing history. It seems destiny intends for them to continue it." As they observed their smiling partners, Brenda's mother hugged her and remarked, "It appears we're fortunate. We get to share in their journey." Ryan nodded in agreement, adding, "I concur, ladies. But for now, let's retrieve the luggage and find a quiet spot for lunch. Then Joshua and I can fill you in on the rest of the story." Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.